Hello, welcome to another episode of Deck Musings. I've got a big smile on my face. This should be a fun deck to look at. We're in this period in Standard in terms of the timeline that we're working through in this series. And I'm glad it specifically mentions this because we'll be talking about this period. So, like homing on specifically around this time. So we've got an interesting set of decks listed here as being prevalent in Tournament. This is really what this column is. You can see that Tournament again. Torment has just been released. So we've got really just one more set to add to the pie, which we'll be looking at next week, which will be Judgment, but we're here. So this is from the period from March the 1st to June the 30th. We've got all of the previous block, Invasion, Plane Shift, Apocalypse. We've got 7th edition is our core set, and we've got Odyssey and Torment. And in this period we've got GP Milwaukee. There's a whole load of GPs all around the same time. We've got US and Japan Nationals in May, Canadian Nationals and European Championship in June. And then next week we'll be getting into the period of Worlds. So interesting time period, that period from Nationals into Worlds, where you get the change from 5 expansions and a core set to the full 6 expansions and a core set. So let's have a look. So here's the Grand Prix that are around May, June, July. So we've got GP Nagoya, GP Milwaukee, New Jersey, Sao Paulo and Taipei. And then we move into the World Championships, which we will talk about next week, no doubt. And here's the top 8 from GP Milwaukee in 2002. So today's deck, we're going to look at this version of Squirrel Opposition. But I thought it'd be a bit of fun in this episode to just look at some of the other decks quickly in that top 8. So Squirrel Opposition came second, got to the final, but was defeated by this Trenches deck. So Eric Taylor was playing the Trenches deck, Patrick Chapin was playing Squirrel Opposition. There was another Squirrel Opposition deck in the top 4. And then also you can see we've got some Psychotog decks, a Battle of the Wits decks, which I nearly did, but if I'd have done a Battle of Wits deck, this episode would have gone on for about 5 hours or more, and you'll see why in a moment. And then something called 4-Colour Braids. Now, apart from the Battle of Wits deck, all of these are, the deck name is a namesake, in that it references a specific card in the deck. So the Trenches deck as Goblin Trenches. I was so spoilt for choice in this episode. Maybe at some point in the future I might think about going back and looking at specific Grand Prix or tournament things if there's enough interest, and go through some of the other decks. It might be a cool thing to do, I don't know. So let me know in the comments if in the future, once I've got through where I need to in this series, let me know if you want me to go back and revisit certain World Championships, Grand Prix, where you think it was like a real cool combination of decks, and I could have maybe spent several weeks there. So let me know. Well, what's interesting about this? Well, apart from the sideboard in the Trenches deck, there's no specific creature spells. I mean, Goblin Trenches, sure, that generates Goblin tokens, but we don't see, apart from in the sideboard, we don't see any creature spells. Squirrel Opposition, we're going to go through this in detail. This is the one we'll look at. And we got Psychodog. And look at this. Look at the mana base on this 3-colour Psychodog. Of course, we got the benefit of a whole load of sets which had non-basic lands in them, cycles in them, but also we've got the benefit of stuff from 7th edition as well. 10 creatures in this one. There's Psychodog. So with Psychodog, discard a card from your hand. Psychodog gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Remove 2 cards in your graveyard from the game. Psychodog gets +1/+1 until end of turn. There's the second Squirrel Opposition deck. So compared to the first, there's a bit more going on here in terms of mana dork. So with the Patrick Chapin version, we've got Birds of Paradise. With this one, the Michael Terrain version, we've got Llanowar Elves and Birds of Paradise. Then we've got 4-colour Braids. There's Braids. A couple more minion. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices an artifact, creature, or land. I believe that's... isn't that banned in Commander? I think so. There's several versions of Braids, isn't there? There's a Battle of Wits deck. So let me try and find Battle of Wits. Here we go. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 200 or more cards in your library, you win the game. So you're stuffing your deck with well over 200 cards, and then the whole point is to, you're trying to get the Battle of Wits out. So you've got all manner of things here. You can see you've got some tutors. Sorry, clicked on the wrong one there. Diabolic Tutor. I was distracted by Chainer's Edict momentarily. Fact or Fiction. So there's probably, I suspect, and I'm not an expert in the Battle of Wits deck, but I imagine there's lots of sort of filtration in here. Card draw, stuff that generally all, I don't know how many tutors there would have been around in Standard, but stuff like that. But you can see all these different cards that do card draw. Look at the library, fiddle around with the library, those sort of things. Interesting mana base overall, look at it. 92 lands in here. Yeah, that's why I didn't imagine me trying to do this in a Deck Musings episode, going through all of these, looking at where you ended up. And then there's just more Psychodog. Again, slight variance there, but we can look at Squirrel Opposition. Okay, so let's go through this, and I'll try and explain how this deck works. So you'll notice here most of our creatures are 1 or 2 mana. We do have an Arrogant Wurm, 3 and 2 green. So let's start off with the Basking Rootwalla. So single green for a 1/1, and then 1 and a green. It gets 2/2 until end of turn. Play this ability only once each turn, but it also has madness on it, so you can actually play the card for its madness cost, which is 0, at the time you discard it from your hand. So interesting interaction there between having this and a Merfolk Looter. Also there's other cards here with discard and cards with madness, so we'll keep an eye open for cards that discard stuff and enable us to basically play this for its madness cost. We've got 4 Birds of Paradise, single green, 0/1 flying, tap, add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. Merfolk Looter, 1 and a blue, draw a card, then discard a card from your hand. It's a 1/1. Wild Mongrel, another card here which synergizes with discard. So discard a card from your hand. Wild Mongrel gets +1/+1 and becomes a colour of your choice until end of turn. Arrogant Wurm, there's 2 of these, 3 and 2 green. It's a 4/4. It's got Trample and it has Madness, 2 and a green. So you may play this card for its Madness cost at the time you discard it from your hand. So again, if you happen to loot it, you get lucky enough to loot it, you can pay it for 2 and a green instead of 3 and 2 green. So in the enchantment section, you'll see the 2 namesake cards for the deck. But we'll start off with Compulsion first. So 2 Compulsions, 1 and a blue. So for 1 and a blue, discard a card from your hand, draw a card. Again, cool interaction with Madness. And then 1 and a blue, sacrifice Compulsion, draw a card. So it replaces itself for a cost. We've got 4 Squirrel Nests. So 1 and 2 green, enchanted land has tap, put a 1/1 green squirrel token into play. And then we have 4 oppositions, which are 2 and 2 blue, tap an untapped creature you control, tap target artifact, creature or land. So the idea is that you can use these squirrel tokens to tap and then tap a target artifact, creature or land. So you're using the squirrel tokens in combination with the opposition to lock down your opponent. And then we have 11 instants. So we've got 4 counterspells, so 2 and 2 blue, counter target spell, circular logic, 2 and a blue, counter target spell unless the controller plays 1 for each card in your graveyard, and it has Madness on it as well. Single blue. And then Fact or Fiction, 3 and a blue, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. An opponent separates these cards into 2 face-up piles, put 1 pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. And we've seen that before on a previous episode. We've got 9 forests, 9 islands, and a Yavimaya Coast. So taps, add 1 colours to your mana pool. To access the green or blue, it'll do 1 damage to you. And in the sideboard, we've got 3 Gainsays, so 1 and a blue, counter target blue spell. Bearscape, 1 and 2 green. It's an enchantment of 1 and a green, remove 2 cards in your graveyard from the game, put a 2/2 green bear creature token into play. Call of the Herd, so 2 and a green, put a 3/3 green elephant creature token into play. It also has flashback on it. So you can play the card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, but then you have to remove it from the game. We've got 2 Static Orbs, 3 to cast. If Static Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than 2 permanents during their untap steps. 4 Jungle Barriers, 2 green-blue. When Jungle Barrier comes into play, draw a card. And then 2 Upheavals, 4 and 2 blue, return all permanents to their owner's hand. So, just to clarify here with the deck. So, early game, you're going to want to be getting your cheap creatures out. Obviously the Birds of Paradise to help with your mana. And obviously things like Merfolk Looter, because you can use that to filter your draws and discard cards that aren't useful, but also, more importantly, synergize nicely with any Madness stuff that you might have in your hand that you are discarding. Then you get into your mid-game, and we're moving into Squirrel Nest and opposition. So you want to set it up so you're getting a squirrel token out every turn, and then you can use that to tap down one of your opponent's permanents. Now, was there a circular logic in here? Yeah, so we've got a number of counter spells here as well. They're going to help us out. And then later game, you've got things like Arrogant Wurm. You've got cards that you can also pump with excess mana. Those sort of things. If your hand's full, you can discard a card and pump Wild Mongrel as well, and you can do that early as well. I mean, those can scale early. So yeah, pretty interesting deck, and you can see if we go back to here, with between the two variants, slightly different balance here. So this has the Llanowar Elves in it. It does have a Flame Tongue Carvu in it, which is doing damage. So the focus of the deck is slightly different in this other deck, although some cards are very similar. This one has Fire and Ice in it as well, the other version. And then I suppose sideboard wise with this, it allows you to change the strategy of the deck overall, I think, depending on the matchup. The other version, this one here, is a bit more, I suppose, focused maybe on a certain situations. You can see there's much more variety in a little bit more variety in the sideboard there. So the Patrick Chapin version, I suppose, is a bit more focused on drawing and discarding cards to find the right combination of cards. And then this one probably leans itself a little bit more to a bit more sort of red aggression, I suppose, here and here. And you can see this one has the Shivan Reefs in it and the Carpathian Forest to get access to that red. But we're looking at this deck. So let's dive in. First of all, most importantly, we have the Odyssey lands. My favourites here, I think, this one in the blue, and probably maybe this one here. This is nice and gnarly. I do like gnarly artwork on land sometimes. Probably my second choice. But like a lot of sets, I must admit I do actually like all the lands. Yavimaya Coast. Ended up in lots of product. We've got it turning up in Commander a couple of times. Magic Origins 2015, Magic 2015 10th edition. This was Cycle was in here, 9th edition. And Cycle of Painlands. And if we come in, so there's our full cycle of Painlands. But, and as you've seen on a previous week, because we've done this before, so I won't spend an awful lot of time here. Let's do this by release date. Yeah, you can see the first set of Painlands were in Ice Age, and those were the allied colours. And then this cycle, which was in Apocalypse, was the enemy cycle. So this block was the first, the previous block to this was when it appeared, because Invasion, Plane Shift. Is that right? I always get confused. Plane Shift, I think, and then Apocalypse, IPA. So, Arrogant Wurm. It's been in Torment, online in Vintage Masters, Friday Night Magic 2006, and the World Championship decks. 2003. Okay, Trample and Madness. Let's see what tags we have. Oh, okay. Then we've got a cycle to look at, which is always nice. Reckless Wurm. So, this is the red version, is it? Yeah, the colour shifted one. Very nice. So, what did that come up in? Oh, Time Spiral yes, of course. It was in Planar Chaos, wasn't it? Lovely. Fangren Hunter. What does that do? 3 and 2 green. For 4/4 with just trample, so no madness. So yeah, it's an arrogant worm bereft of madness. That was in the original Mirrodin. Five drops for 4/4. So yeah, let's have a look at this cycle. It looked like a few of them have been reprinted. Oh yeah, there's Circular Logic. So I think it's just uncommon madness cards, really. You've got a creature, an instant, and then 2 instants actually, and then 2 auras. Well, at this point it just said enchant creature. So yeah, purely a cycle based on the rarity and the fact they have madness. But apart from that, so yeah, some of these cycles, and a lot of people don't always realise, can be quite loosey goosey in terms of the commonality is, well, like that for instance is just madness cards that are uncommon. There was something else I did want to look at here. Let me just go back a step. Yeah, maybe. Let's have a look. I don't know, there's always something about 4/4s. Sounds strange, I know. Power 4. Toughness 4. I suppose just because, well, anything with toughness 4, you're out of the range of a bolt, aren't you? Just can't be got rid of with one bolt. But what I'm curious is, what do you get for a 4/4, and how much does it cost? So what I might do is, let me just see if I can. I suppose what I'm really interested in here is, so 4/4s that have a CMC that is less than 6, so 5 or lower. So there's still 674 cards. I'm just wondering for the early stuff, because a 4/4 for, well, I suppose a 4/4 for 5. I'm just trying to think at that point whether a 4/4 for 5 would have been considered to be like overpowered. Let's just do his first printing. So, okay, so yeah, 4/4 for 5 with flying and vigilance. Okay, so that's really our yardstick. Is a Seer Angel. I thought the Seer Angel was around about that actually. So with this, I mean, where's it gone? Yeah. So, you know, assuming that a vanilla creature that's a 4/4 might be 4/4 for 4. Like, what is that extra 2 mana giving us? Or extra, no, sorry, extra, I'll start again, the extra 1 mana. So we've got flying and vigilance there. So that's, I mean, at the time, this was, you know, considered to be a bomb. It'd be interesting to see what we get now for 5 in terms of flyers. Which I'll have a look at in a moment, no doubt. So I think I've gone down a bit of a curiosity rabbit hole here. And it's going to take me a while to leave. 4/4 for 3. But if to discard a land from your hand or destroy it. No doubt there's probably lots of ridiculous stuff around the time of Urza block, I suspect. As was the norm then. It's interesting, they've got quite a lot of undercosted spells here, but they've got these downsides to them. That one's 5 green with trample. You get to put counters on it. Yeah, so more specifically, let's make this a bit more like this. Okay, 347. So first of all, let's just look at all the stuff that tramples over. Okay, so we've got 40 cards. Oh, this thing, yeah. Thornling. That's pretty cool. You've got like a 4/4 for 5 with all this utility. Yeah, like multimodal. Oh, right. Yeah, Rune falls into a very thin, very specific category. 4/4 for 5 with trample. What do we get here for this one? We get bargain. If it was bargained, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Okay. Now what I was interested in, because I saw Seer Angel, is this. Oh, yeah, Singia Vampire. 81 cards that are 4/4 for 5 and fly. Or have the potential to fly in some cases. Ooh, yeah, there's some interesting stuff here. Skitherix. Of course, Chromanticore is a Wooburg 5 with all of this stuff. Flying, First Strike, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink. Okay, let's move on. Reckless Wurm. Basking Rootwalla. Okay. Mystery Booster, Ultimate Masters. It was in the Garrick versus Liliana dual decks. They're cool. I love dual decks. I have them all. Got to collect them all. Although I had to go back. Well, I got the earlier ones through the anthology actually, which I was pretty pleased about when that came out, because those earlier decks were going up a little bit in price, I think, to get on the secondary market, and I'd missed a lot of the earlier ones. Well, specifically I think the first however many, it was exactly I think however many are in that anthology. Comes in a lovely box as well. Should dig that out again at some point. Oh, there we go. Oh, there's a Common Madness cycle of loads. Again, yeah, no consistency in terms of the card type, only the fact that they're at common and they are madness, and there's one in each of the 5 colours. I suppose they do a very... I'm trying to remember whether the other thing with these is they had a specific like type of spell, you know, they did a specific thing associated with that colour. Like, you know, I suppose where I'm going with this, there's got to be like an equivalent here, like a non-madness equivalent. So, you know, something that does +2/+2 in green. I think we recognise this sort of spell. This one, you know, destroying enchantments in white, drawing a card in blue, and then multiple 1 damage across the board in black. I thought that was frizzled for a moment. Frilled Sandwaller. So it's better than what's the difference? Oh, because yeah, again, the absence of the madness on this other one. Okay. I mean, that thing in green, let's just have a look at that actually, because that'd be quite cool to look at that. So if we do Oracle of what? +2/+2, I suppose. So a +2/+2 pump. Maybe I should put that in. I don't think I have to because there's no gaps in it, so it should be okay. We will do green initially. Let's see what we get. Where it's attached to a creature. Okay. Where it's a first print. Show the first printing. Is nice. Let me just remember to copy that. Just bring up a notepad off screen. There we go. Oh wow! Oh god, I'm glad there's some classics here. Fit Wombat. Oh, that's funny. 2 and 2 green for a 0/1. Gets +2/+2 for each creature enchantment on it. Okay. We has Voltron Wombat. Okay. That's a thing. I'm assuming what the hell is that? Oh, it still is a wombat. Do you think Wombat Tribal could possibly be a thing? Oh dear, that'd be funny. I don't think so. Okay, we do have a Wombat Bat Chameleon. This is one of the unsanctioned. Whenever you augment, enchant, or mutate a creature you control, draw a card. It's 3 and a green, but it is. Oh, this is cool. So we do have 5 colour. Interesting. Like Voltron. Would that be a fun thing to do? Like all these really obscure Voltron type creatures with this as the commander? Oh, that's... How much is that? It's not legal, and you have to go under house rules. Yeah, it's a bit... it's very broken. I can sort of see why. This not so much. If you wanted the cheapest version possible, it was reprinted in Chronicles and also in 5th edition. Ended up on Magic the Gathering Online because they reprinted a whole lot of cards through the Mastered Edition series of stuff they didn't specifically put sets in. So that's what these are, if you're not familiar with that idea on MTGO, where they had to have some way of bringing cards into the card pool online where they weren't, like for the older sets, which they just chose not to put the older sets up there. And yeah, that was that. They achieved it. That would be funny. Artwork to get. That would be a cool playmat, wouldn't it? You reckon? Oh dear. What do we got? Of course, yeah. ATOGs. Are we likely to see... Okay. Yep, so... Yeah, it was a thing, obviously, quite a bit around this period. So Mercadian Mars, which has already rotated out of standard, and we have the Apocalypse block, so a couple of the Invasion block, so it's a couple from Apocalypse. Then we've got Odyssey, 4, 5, yeah, clearly a thing in Odyssey. Torment, which is the sort of period we're up to now. I've got an interesting Torment deck actually for the Friday artwork video that I hope you'll enjoy. Like a theme deck. There's Torment, Judgment, Onslaught. It's really just peppered around, I suppose, after that. Creatures that pump by 2/2, and of course this is the one I remember is Putrid Leech from Alara Reborn, because at the point when I was starting to watch Magic the Gathering tournaments online, this would have been in standard, so I remember that being mentioned a few times. You can certainly do some interesting things in green-black with like alternative resource costs. Intrepid Truffle Snout. Okay, what do we got? Oh, Birds of Paradise. So, yeah, is that right? I thought, yeah, no, it has been reprinted beyond that. It's all right, because it only shows a certain amount of stuff. I was just trying to work out in terms of sets. Yeah, so I do remember it being in 10th. But if you go back in time, you can see, so you know, obviously originally in Alpha. And then what have we got here? So Alpha, Beta, Unlimited. That would be revised, or 3rd edition as it's sometimes called. 4th, we got it. This would be 5th, I'm assuming, yep. So notice with 4th and 5th, neither of them had set symbols yet. It was only when we get to 6th that we get set symbols. 7, which is where we are now. 8th edition. It did crop up in Ravnica City of Guilds, and they used the same artwork for 10th, so this is where I became aware of it, because this is the first Magic stuff I bought. And then M10, M11, so you know, it's been kicking around quite a few core sets. It has that nice thing where, you know, it's cheap to cast but easy to remove. Unless it's pumped, it can't do any damage. And I'm assuming it would fall into the category of things like mana dorks and stuff like that. It's got evasion because it's got flying. Cycle of LEA slush art. Oh, that's right. These colours are on last minute for alpha, not play tested and designed to use up leftover art. That's funny. I forgot about that. Oh, that's amusing. And that would be in their original form as well. So, yeah. Which we've already seen for that one. So, Gilded Goose, similar to. That's that one that spits out food tokens. I mean, the whole area of mana dorks we have visited before, but again, if you're curious, so 1 CMC mana dorks, there's 25 of them. and we've had a look before. There we go. Oops. So yeah, Birds of Paradise, Llanowar Elves, Elves of Deep Shadow. This is cool. So you got this green 1/1, but it taps for black mana and does 1 damage to you as well, as is the case with, you know, many black cards. There's often a secondary cost of a life. So you've got a green card that's generating black mana. You've got Orcish Lumberjack, where you have to wave bye-bye to a forest as well, but you get a combination of 3 mana of red and green. And then we move on to things like Findor Elves. And then other elves which you have to combine up with other things. And then you've got, of course, Noble Hierarch from Conflux. So single green, does green, white, blue. Arbor Elf untaps the forest. Tree Speaker is really interesting. So, as is, it's just a 1/1 for 1. It's not till you level it up that it starts to generate mana, but things can get out of control with it. There's the green one that generates white mana. You've got Deathrite Shaman, Elvish Mystic. And then, of course, the other thing, which you're probably wondering, where are a lot of the mana dorks? Well, there's an awful lot of 2-drop mana dorks in Magic. Including the Mirrors. Okay. Good old Merfolk Looter. So, similar to Thought Courier. Yep. 1 and a blue, 1/1, that draws a card, then discards a card. As opposed to the other way around, which is discarding a card, then drawing cards. So, if I'm right here, this is looting. So when you draw a card, then discard it, that's looting. Rummaging, which is what red often does, is you discard a card and then you draw a card. Draw a card, then discard. Rummaging, discards, then draws. So, lots of looting in blue. And some other combinations here you can see. I always forget about that one. Actually, it's interesting. It's not been so bad recently, where just because of the way I tend to do these now, I'm not having to be plagued by cards that are only like online cards. But occasionally, it's obviously really handy. For that piece of advice I was given from one of my long-term viewers, long-term friends of the channel. Yeah, we got some cool stuff here. Interesting to see how, if other colours do looting, how they pull that off. Because it's interesting, isn't it, that Control of the Court has draw 4 cards, then put them into your hand, then discard 3 cards at random. So I suppose if, yeah, and again, just thinking off the top of my head here, if red is going to do looting, then it's going to do it chaotically. As opposed to doing it as a rummage, which, like I said, is what you normally get in red. But yeah, not lots of blue looters in Magic. We previously looked at some cephalids that do it, actually. And then if we go back to rummaging, we get 189 instances of rummaging, as it says mostly in red. Oh yeah, Jandal's Ring. Five to cast for Ring of Renewal. 5 tap, discard a card at random from your hand and draw 2 cards. Okay. I'm trying to think of the one that really sticks in my head. It's interesting because Wild Guess does it because as an additional cost you discard a card. I was trying to think of what was the first time I became aware of rummaging on a card. Not sure. Because this is showing the older printings. It possibly could be one. Is there any early cards here in red that were reprinted? I don't think so. I suppose this one, because it's in the title, Rummaging Goblin. Okay. Moving on, Wild Mongrel. This one +1/+1, and it becomes a colour of your choice until end of turn. Hell Mongrel. Okay. Shade Pump. I need to look at that. Is that because it discards? Isn't that a shade thing? I think it is, isn't it? Maybe not then. Am I thinking of something else? Oh no! Oh, yes. Sorry, I'm getting confused. Yeah, I'm thinking of another card. Yeah. So yeah, these shades. They always had this, I think option where you could pour in black mana and it would pump it +1/+1. Isn't it more the ATOGs that, pump because you sack something or discard something? It's Killer Bees. Wild Mongrel. Yeah, there's all the ATOGs. Same set. Yeah, more shades. Right, circular logic. Counter target spell unless it's controller. So we're into the realms of what do they call it, like soft. Is it soft counters, I think is the term? Yeah, counterspell soft. So that's where it gives the player a chance to buy off the counter in some way. Now this, I imagine, is going to escalate quite considerably because just the deck itself stuff tends to end up in the graveyard. So this is going to get more expensive to buy off. Oh no, hang on. Sorry. I completely misread that. I do apologise. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1 for each card. So it's a cost to you. Okay, yeah, I misread that. I'm used to that. Okay, so... Oh no, sorry. I was right in the first place. The controller of the key. Yeah, sorry, no. Now I'm really getting muddled up. I apologise for the apology. Counter target spell unless its controller pays. Yeah, so it's the controller of the counterspell. Right, now that's right. So yeah, it was what I thought it was originally. So I misread the misreading. Right, back on track. Counterspell with set mechanic. Ooh. Okay, yeah. Clearly a thing. More, yeah. Well, we did see actually it's part of that Arrogant Wurm cycle. So. Countervailing Winds. Where's that from? That's a lot later, isn't it? 2 and a blue. Same cost. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1 for each card in your graveyard. Cycling 2. Rakshana's Disdain. So yeah, this counterspell with a set mechanic. So how do they? I'm curious now as to how they, how they interact in various ways. So payment of life, fair enough. I'm interested in the ones where it seemingly, gets more expensive as the game progresses, rather than just it's sort of inconvenient, or the opponent might be tapped out, so they can't pay the spell. More the case that the spell's just got so stupidly expensive because it's scaled against something. And that something is influenced by a set ability, a set keyword, because of the fact, in this set, it's tied into a madness card. And discard. Oh, of course, yes, the affinity. So I'm assuming if there's an affinity one here, then are we also going to see, where is it, something in, Metalcraft, yeah. So yeah, the scaling off certain cards being there. On Devotion, yeah, okay. So yeah, now I'm seeing it. Oh, and this one is... Oh no, I wondered if it was scaling off of face down cards. Yeah, instants or sorceries. Okay. Compulsion. Discard card. Boom, boom, boom. It's not been. I did turn up in Wilds of Eldraine. Enchanting Tales. Oh. Disorder enchantment. Oh, yeah, look. And never been reprinted. It's an interesting cycle to collect. It's artwork wise. Oh look, there's our rummage. Discard a card from your hand, draw a card. And also sack and draw as well. Mental discipline. Counterspell. Yeah, we've looked at this on numerous occasions. I don't know if there's any much more I can add to it. You recognise that there's a whole ton of cards that it's either, yeah, that are either it's either better than or it's worse than. Mostly, it's better than a lot of stuff. So things like cancel, ice out. You can see they're like a higher casting cost. Or some additional cost. Yeah, so Counterspell, the classic 2 blue Counterspell. Fact or fiction, we did look at this in a previous week. I think it's cropped up actually a couple of times now. It's got that mulch effect. Put there's cards at the top of your library, putting remainders into the graveyard. And so we have looked at mulch before. But for those of you that haven't seen the previous episodes, there we go. 99 mulchy cards. And let's just see if we put this in. There we go, there's the namesake card. Symmetric does it. Sort of thing first seen on Ancestral Memories. And you've got other cards like Oath of Druids. Things like Genesis Wave, Towergeist, Borborygmos, Kiora. The most recent thing with mulchy goodness. Oh, there we go. Yeah, looks like a bit of a thing here on adventures, because now we're using the term. There's a certain period where obviously they're going to start using the term mill as well. Opposition. Yeah, it's cropped up a few times. Wasn't the invocations as well? Tap fuel creature, tap a creature, tap a land, tap a artifact. So what's a... Okay, a lot of these. So using the tapping ability is fueled by creatures. So background. And first seen an energy tap. So yeah, definitely a thing that's been around for a while. There's Earthcraft. And I suspect this sort of thing has really got a bit of a history. Certain key cards here crop up in tournament decks, control decks, where they can sort of exploit that interaction between this particular card and then cards that generate tokens relatively cheaply that can be used as the tapper in order to, or the tappy, or however you want to put it. Squirrel's Nest. For your squirrel deck. Repeatable token generations. Yeah, so actually this is the sort of thing I was thinking about. So yeah, that combination of the types of card we've looked at before, which require a creature to be tapped and cards that have repeatable token generation. You can see I've been looking at Saplings is often a good one for that if you can find cheap sapling generators. I mean, even those, the cards that often spit out cheap mana dorks, providing you don't want to use them to generate mana. But these are not cheap. Oh, there's Boris. Yeah, a lot of the early stuff, they didn't want to give you cheap tokens, did they? I don't know really what the first... I'm just trying to think, what was the first card that really spat out like cheaply tokens? I mean, with the Thalids, you do have a bit of a heavy cost in terms of the spore counters you've got to remove, and that could be vulnerable. I mean, you can abuse it later in Magic when you had things like Proliferate, but I'm just wondering whether this was the first card which had relatively cheap token production as compared to other stuff. And we got a few more. We've got like counter, +1/+1 counter shenanigans. And this one, which looks very reasonable, like a 2/2 for 1, but has this sort of check on it, so plays ability only if target opponent controls more creatures than you. Yeah. So that's interesting two things to look at, I think, is, repeatable token generators in combination with tap fuel creatures, like throughout Magic. And any time those two things align in Standard, I suppose you've got an opportunity for a Squirrel opposition type deck, even though it might not be called Squirrel opposition. Bearscape. Graveyard Fuel, punny name, mana sink. Oh, it's another repeatable token generator, which we've already looked at. What do we get for Graveyard Fuel? Okay, headstone. Move from the game target card in any graveyard. Draw a card at the beginning. Oh, yeah. That's interesting. Okay, so it's targeted graveyard. Hey, no. There's Organ Grinder. It's definitely fits in with Friday's theme deck. Okay. So you can now see, actually, if you hadn't twigged already, we're into the area of the sideboard. The other thing I was curious about, actually, I didn't. What do they call that? Yeah, graveyard field. Okay. And what was the definition, if any? They didn't have one. Just field for your graveyard. Right. So, yep. Back to Call of the Herd. So another way of generating tokens. So 3/3 for 3, but does have flashback on it. So you can play it from the graveyard. It's been reprinted a few times now. Trumpeting Herd, it's similar to. That has rebound on it. And is it slightly higher cost? Yeah. Obviously, cast from the graveyard is a thing. And there's quite a number of creatures that will do that. And no doubt, yep, we've seen that in previous episodes. But just to refresh anybody's memory, or it's the first time you've watched one of my videos of this series, there you go. 267 cards that have been tagged under the Cast from Graveyard tag in Scryfall. And yeah, I think I mentioned this in one of my more recent videos. This is an interesting set because of the presence of this little tombstone symbol. You can see quite a number around this time. So we got that from Odyssey, some Torment stuff, and some Judgment. But they didn't use it beyond that. Yeah. Okay, Gainsay, counter target blue spell, so very specific. Reprinted in Theros, did crop up in the World Champ decks from 2002. And there's obviously lots of stuff that target blue. In terms of we're looking stuff generally that does that, let's have a look. That's it. With that particular phrasing. I mean, if I was to maybe do this, we might get a bit of a wider thing. Oh, we get guttural response. But I suppose this is the one that I remember the most. Whoops. That is not what I wanted to do. Yeah, that modern Gainsay one is a bit creepy. Makes me yeah. Makes me think of the Matrix, scene in the Matrix actually. Jungle Barrier. This is this interesting wall, 2 green blue. It's a 2/6. When it comes into play, you actually get to draw a card. It's been reprinted in Explorers of Ixalan, Iconic Masters. There was a Magic Online theme deck. I can't remember which one. I think there were 2 that were released under that sort of name. I wonder if this was in one of the 2 very first, because the very first Commander product, for those of you that don't know, or EDH, would have, well, as it would have been back then, I suppose, was on Magic the Gathering Online. I think there was a graveyard. There was I've got a paper version of it. I'm trying to even remember the name of the commander. Yeah. So it's a draft signpost card. In IMA. So, yeah, Iconic Masters. That's one I always have trouble just remembering what the initials stand for. Static Orb. It's originally in Tempest, reprinted in 7th. That's where it's from in this deck, and it's in the World Champ decks in 2001. Deprecated untapped artifact. What's that? Until 6th edition, artifacts would I always love it when you get stuff like this come up. So yeah, until 6th edition, artifacts were deactivated when they were tapped. These cards from prior to 6th edition have that behaviour baked into their current rules text. Fun. It's only 6 of them. Howling Mine. What's one? Winter Orb. Those as contact lenses as well. And then finally, Upheaval. Return all permanents to their owner's hands. Banned in Commander. Banned in Oathbreaker. I wonder why. 4 and 2 blue. It's on from the Vault Annihilation. I don't know if I have this from the Vault or not. I only have a couple. I imagine they're very bendy by now. It's Modern Horizons 2. It is, however, legal in Penny Dreadful. I suppose as long as it's under a penny. But yeah, legal in a lot of other formats like Modern, Legacy and Vintage. Sweep a permanent bounce. Okay. What have we got? Yeah, not something you see very often, according to this. I wonder if all of these have been banned in formats. Let's have a look. Hibernation, no, that's legal. 2 and a blue return. Oh, so that's all green permanents. Return all permanents of the colour of your choice to their owner's hand, which is Washout. Yeah, that's fine. So Upheaval, that's a no-no. And World Purge is for white-blue hybrid. Each page is up to 7 cards in and shuffles the rest into the library. Empty all mana pools. Okay. So clearly something that we don't see very often. I mean, there's other, cards that obviously bounce a lot of stuff. But yeah, this is obviously considered to be too much for Commander. I mean, there's obviously as well other cards that affect all permanents. Let's have a look, see what we've got. So yeah, was it Carvex Spy? It's the first time we've seen it. That's sort of, something that affects all permanents. Ooh, Apocalypse. Remove all permanents from the game. Discard your hand. It's interesting. Is that some machines there that have it on it? And there's some here that all permanents you control. End hostilities. And of course, Oblivion Stone does it for non-land permanents. I just suppose this is just so in certain conditions, like where you've got all the permanents back in your hand, and there's certain things that you are able to recast as well, and then they have certain triggers on them that could get seriously out of hand. It just bounces everything. I mean, in terms of stuff that bounced, yeah, there's 362 cards, but that thing is considered to be particularly egregious. Okay, there we have it. That was interesting. Yeah, this is a really interesting Grand Prix. I'll see if I can find anything from around that period. Hopefully this particular event. I'm not sure if I will, but if I find anything on YouTube, I'll include a link in the description along with the other usual links. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I'll catch you in a future episode.